right, guys, back with you here. Next up was actually tied for first here with the yen was Take-Two Interactive here. I guess their earnings are coming tomorrow. So I hadn't looked into this in a while. So daily chart here, so I'm just going back to what this '09 low. Now, it's in and out of log here, so certainly with a low of, we got $5 and a high of $140, we certainly have the conditions to warrant a look at it in log scale. Plus, it'll just make it easier to pop out the waves. Kind of an ugly diagonal, and it does look like we have to truncate the fifth here to get that to play with our Elliott hats on. So 1, 2, and it looks like 3, 4, right? Skinny little 5. Now it does, it gets compressed here because we're in log scale. Even still here, so that looks like, perfect example of where you might apply a channel here. So we just grabbing from our 2. Now it does distort a little bit in, let's get it right on there, log scale. But not a bad example here. And then this is something we've talked about before where often the market, if it's going to break out of a channel, it'll retest from underneath. Now it looks like that was some resistance. Now are we in the process of just, is it 1, 2, and we're off to go up and get that new high? Well, we got, I think, pardon me, it's after the close today is when those earnings are coming. So this ought to be interesting. Now, of course, there's always, caution when you're trading to be putting on a trade in anticipation of some result with earnings on the higher risk side, because the surprise, the market's going to react one way or the other. So I don't know that I'd be putting a fresh trade on today ahead of earnings myself, but just in terms of its potential, in terms of where we might be going, I'm going to take it out of log here and then come down. We're going to look a little bit more closely into this. I don't think there's any reason to come out of daily here, really. This is, kind of an ugly channel. Kind of the same thing here. We can get the channel here, then we break. But note again, it happens again. So we get this the break testing from above, and then that sends us. Now we do have this one little sell-off here. That must have been news or something drove it. Or we have a gap here that was then. So we gapped up. So after the sell-off, we leave the gap. They fill the gap here, and then as we drift lower. But it looks like this. If I open this up even more, bear with me a sec. Looks like this is all. Right, so it's tempting to think 1, 2, 3 up here, and we're putting in the 4. But if you take a closer look at it, I don't think so. So this is deep enough, and it's technical. So I think we've got to go with the 3, 4 here. So we come just shy of the 38 and get an algo target here. A couple of ways we could look for some confluence here. So length of the 1 projected from the 4, where there's our little 138, 1272 window. It's not to the tick hot on it, but certainly looks like they had enough here to get through and get that target. Now coming down here, it looks like more like we've got, this is an A, shallow B, it almost makes the 50, and we'd do something like that. So from the pivot here, right, well, I guess we're not shallow if I get right on that. So here's 50 to the tick, so I'm inclined to drop the B there. Now we're going to get a full 100% here. Oh, let's get that right on it. Right there we go. All right, that's literally to the tick. All right, so let's just take a look. All right, so can we get, so here's 100, we'd be, it's kind of the same thing. We could put another channel on this. If we're going to get down here, we're going to get that far. Maybe it takes a little more time. If we get an abrupt reaction from the earnings, if there's a negative surprise or a surprise of any sort, market, you never know how the market's going to react to it. But if we were to break down here, this would be the next spot I'd be looking for. Perhaps second target as we got some volatility. If heavy emphasis on if the market reacts negatively to it. So if you're a bull, right, that would be a gift. If you had a little sell-off with that on the assumption that this is just this is the dominant, the larger degrees 4 is going in, and this is a contender for just the 1 at that degree to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get those. Go up to minuet, put them in white as well. So if this is the 3, the 4, well, here, let me do it this way. Let's take this one. We'll go up to intermediate. Okay, so then on the larger 4s in, there's the 1 seeking the 2 of the 5th. Now, if we got down to this zone, let's just see if we can put it together. So from the low, all right, so I've got, if we fatten that up here a little bit, so here would be your buy zone if we're going to come down here. Right? So 50 would be the minimum. Now, we don't have to go 100. Here's the 618, the length of the A, but that would be ideal. So if you really wanted to try and fine-tune it, perhaps you get a little help from some of this support here. Looks like we've hit this repeatedly. Something in that range would be just perfect, right? So if you got that, again, right, depending on how the market responds to earnings, if you got into that zone and you found a little stability there, that's where I would look to maybe look for that to carry on. Now, remember that this would be just, that's not your target, right? Your target would be up here. Right, our little shorthand for the 1618. So if we're going to get a true 1618, if we're going to get a true 1, 2, 3, and it's going to play Elliott ball with us, well, that's what we're looking for. So you can kind of set the thing up, and then of course you know what I'm going to do next is I can get it hot. All right, so down here, get a pivot in here. Well, maybe it takes a little longer. 4, 5, we'd be out into 2021, right? So equities, they move more slowly, or so something along those lines sets up rather nicely. But first, you need to see, ideally, right? The market's not going to cooperate necessarily, but if you got a little sell-off, right? I said we're kind of down, down, down. So perhaps this is, oftentimes it'll be they'll sell into it, and if you can get an opportunity to be buying it lower, they'll take advantage of that. So I wouldn't put anything on today, but I would certainly have an alert. I might do it just a little bit ahead of it. So maybe taking a pivot like this one here. Just put an alert on that level, so if it comes down to it, I'd want to see how it responds there. And if it goes a little deeper, that's all right. We got the golden zone down here. So this one, on the assumption that 3, 4, 5 here is no longer in play relative to that impulse. So I would just be kind of watching for that zone down there as an opportunity to get long again, whether you're doing it buying the underlying or buying options to do it. But certainly you'd want some longer term options here, so you got to pay for that. Time is money. Truly, with options, time is money. So you'd have to go longer term here or just buy the underlying. That's what I see there, guys. All right, that's kind of short and sweet on that one. Okay, talk to you later.